What are your views on the AI summit? I found Vice President J.D. Vance's speech quite confrontational, to say the least, towards not just China, but also France and the US and UK obviously did not sign the joint statement. I also noticed that Macron gave India an extraordinary reception, also joining PM during departure. Is this a nuance countries consider? Did France and India try to put some pressure back on the US? So I haven't really looked in detail at the AI summit. Vance, he has given some pretty confrontational speeches recently. He is on a mission to scold the EU, scold the EU, to lecture the EU, to excoriate the European Union. Macron definitely gave the PM, as always, a great reception. France is, like I keep saying, the only EU nation, NATO nation, that has a quasi independent foreign policy, a completely independent, sovereign nuclear option. And France wants great relations with India to bolster its sovereignty and its and the safety and security of its Indian Ocean possessions. Now, the speech by Vance was quite something. So he says that the greatest threat to Europe is an internal threat, not an external threat. And it's a threat from fundamental values like democracy and free speech. So the EU is now deprioritizing democracy and free speech. And he said that elections are being annulled and free expression is being curtailed and stifled, and people are being jailed for social media posts. And there is a talk of countering misinformation and hate speech, and they are killing democracy under this pretext. And he said that during the Cold War, various authoritarian nations were doing the same thing. So how are you different from these nations, right? That's what he was saying. And social media, obviously the curtailment of social media, and he speaks about Germany, and he talks about Sweden, and he gave various examples. UK also, a person, he was praying near an abortion clinic, was arrested and prosecuted, and so on. And he did acknowledge that the previous administration, the Biden administration, did encourage the EU to do this, and they did go after social media. But he said that the Trump administration will be different, and we're going to protect free expression and all that. We're going to champion free speech. He spoke about the annulment of Romania's election, which is like essentially alarming. You're essentially stifling, destroying democracy. And he said that democracy is it so fragile that it can be destroyed by limited amounts of alleged foreign interference or influence or advertising. Obviously, he's referring to Musk, because Musk has been trying to interfere in Germany's election recently. And populist or right wing parties are being excluded from various things and all. So you're dismissing opposing views to whatever your views are. So where's the democracy in this? And then obviously he spoke about migration, mass migration. He said that there's large scale immigration that's been done into Europe, and it's causing all kinds of problems in Europe. Social tension and violent incidents obviously are on the rise. And the voters in Europe have not agreed to open the floodgates, and so on. So he said that all these things are completely wrong, completely undemocratic. You are becoming intolerant. You're becoming undemocratic. You're becoming censorious. You're censoring the people. You are undermining their concerns, and so on. And anything you say, if the government doesn't like it, it's misinformation. So he really piled on all this and scolded the EU. And yeah, that's what it was. So looks like the US is now gonna completely reorient the EU nations and the way they operate. Right now, there is resistance from the EU nations vis-a-vis the Ukraine settlement that's going to happen and other issues, but they're going to bring them to heel. The EU is going to have to do what they're told.